This week, we have another business mover who helped shape the landscape of Philippine cuisine right here at home. She's no other than the president of that iconic Filipino restaurant, the Aristocrat.
The Aristocrat is now on its 76th year, a feat that perhaps no other restaurant here has achieved nor even come close to. It was founded by Alex and Ashang Reyes, and the legacy has been passed on to the children who continue to carry the torch for the Reyes family. Mrs. Priscilla Reyes Pacheco, one of the daughters, is now the president.
I was born in PGH, very near. But actually, can't remember, but I grew up in San Juan, and I studied my elementary in San Juan. My mother is Teresita Reyes. My father is Fidel Reyes. They are both Reyes, but they are not related. My father comes from the Reyes of Malolos, Bulacan, but my mother's family comes from Navotas. So many people, I know, mistake. Saan bang Reyes ka? Actually, it's my grandmother. My mother's side is the one connected with the Aristocrat.
According to the family, the Aristocrat started as a mobile canteen, an old vehicle used by Engracia Cruz Reyes, or Aling Ashang, selling merienda to strollers in the Luneta. Back then, Luneta was a favorite picnic area for Manila residents, and the business became lucrative enough for the family to put up their own restaurant. This building that now houses the Aristocrat was built as Admiral Dewey until it was renamed the Aristocrat in 1939. Priscilla Reyes Pacheco worked at the Aristocrat from 1959 to 1973 in various positions to familiarize herself with all the aspects of the operation. She spent her elementary years at the Jesus Maria College, a Dominican school, and her high school at St. Teresa's College. She earned her degree in accounting at the University of the Philippines and eventually became a certified public accountant. 25 years after graduating from college, she earned her master's degree in business administration, also at the UP.
Kasi I got married, no? So, nawala. And then, wala na and then all my classmates were nag-MBA. Sabi ko, ano ba yung MBA niya? Ako rin, sabi ko, no? So, after 25 years, and you know who was my classmate? Tabi ko pa sa graduation picture ako, si Jessie Robredo.
Mrs. Priscilla Reyes Pacheco is one of the epitome of a fine Filipino woman who had a good education and was brought up well in old treasure values.
I grew up with all my life, grandfather, puro grandmother ako. Because on weekends, long holidays, vacations, I'm with my maternal grandmother naman dito sa Aristocrat.
Like many families back then, she belonged to a large brood of 11 children, so she and her younger sister stayed with her widowed grandmother, who was a teacher till she was 12 years old.
I got my faith from her Marian devotion. Every night she would tell me stories of yung sa Bible, mga ganoon. I got it all from her, praying the rosary every day, ganoon. It was opposite dito sa lola ko. Pag dito naman, puro pasyal. hindi naman pasyal. I mean, there were always people around. Kasi nga, may restaurant, and my lola, ang schedule na, magsisini kami. Kaya, all the movies I went, it's because of my grandmother here. Hindi ako nagsisini naman except with my grandmother. Kaya when I was old already, I don't go to movies anymore. When pagtanda mo, hindi ka nakasama ng lola mo.
Mrs. Pacheco never worked with any other employer as she was drafted to work for the family business. She, however, wanted to become an entrepreneur, so for 14 years, she ceased being connected with Aristocrat. She owned and operated several concessionaires in movie houses, selling popcorn and other snacks. But she eventually went back to her roots, and she now sits at the helm as president of this iconic restaurant. The flagship restaurant in the Bay Area was such a huge success that the second Aristocrat branch opened in Cubao. The family also opened the Aristocrat Resort where they popularized the now famous Aristocrat barbecue. Ashang's specialties made the Aristocrat what it is now. She was known as the mother of Filipino cooking, and there is even a street in Ermita named after her. Among her specialties that have been retained by the restaurant up to now include the dinuguan and puto, pansit luglog, lumpiang ubod, arroz caldo, and turon. Their bestseller, though, are the barbecues, which have been a favorite of generations of Filipino families. From a mobile canteen, the Aristocrat now has 9 branches, and Mrs. Pacheco says 4 more restaurants will be put up this year. In keeping with the times, they have commissioned a designer to give the restaurant a more contemporary look, bridging the past and the present so that the old customers will still find a home, and the younger clientele will find a comfortable place to patronize. Mrs. Priscilla Reyes Pacheco, who has 4 children and 7 grandchildren, still runs the restaurant actively. Though age seems to be catching up with her, until 2 years ago, she was still playing tennis, a game she loves until a back problem forced her to stop.
Until nagkasakit ako, I used to play tennis. Yan ang namimiss ko. But I got sick, hindi sumasakit na yung likod ko. 2 years ago lang, sayang.
She has forged a good relationship with her employees who have treated the Aristocrat as their home.
Ako ang motto ko sa kanila when I tell them, magtipid kayo, a penny saved is a penny earned. Pagka ba, oy, mahal yan. A penny saved, yun ang akin lagi yung sinasabi sa kanila.
A deeply religious woman, she has no particular advocacy that she can lay claim to because she would rather devote her time to the church. However, she says that she personally subscribed to hard work, frugality, and honesty.
Kailangan masipag ka. Kasi, I think, when I try to look into the other people, bakit sila nag-succeed, ang common denominator is masipag. Mahirap mag-delegate. Yung bang inasa mo lang, yung utos lang utos, hindi pwede. Kailangan on hands-on ka. Dapat alam mo yung ginagawa mo, hindi mo i-utos. Ako, sa sarili ko, if I'm putting up a business, alam ko yung, miski umalis yung tao, alam ko yung gagawin ko. Kaya dito, miski umalis yung cook, I can cook.
And what she has inherited from her beloved grandmother, her faith and good moral values are now the hallmarks of how she conducts business.
Actually, I always say, you can fool people, but you cannot fool God. Kaya you cannot be dishonest, di ba? Kasi maloloko mo yan, pero at the end, pinagbabayaran mo lahat yun, di ba?
Everyone I know grew up with the Aristocrat. It is now an important landmark in Ross Boulevard or wherever there stands an Aristocrat restaurant. I hope this legacy will be there for many more generations to come.